So I hope you guys don't mind. Tomorrow is going to be a big day. So I thought, well, I don't like to move these things around very much, but I didn't want to blow off the week. So I thought I'll just do this on Monday, and maybe that helps some people too. Not everybody's cool on Tuesday as much as some other days. So, all right, I got somebody in Glendale. Last four digits of the phone number is 1313. Who am I talking to?
Hey, Mitch, it's Dan. We've been on the mobile home effort. Talked to Mike last week. He indicated y'all are usually buying your lots off of the tax delinquency list. And so just have gone to one of the county courthouse nearest me, and I guess I haven't found that lady that sits in the basement and knows everything. The one I found only knew of constable sales, I guess, actual fire sales, properties that are being blown out or being sold. So just any input you can give on different websites y'all go to, to buy lists that have got tax delinquencies, just as many.
We're just going to the court. The courthouse is usually automated. Are you in a small town where they're not automated?
Well, it is automated. Maybe I'm not finding it. I'm planning to go down there tomorrow and actually sit through this auction. Hopefully meet some folks there that will have some better instructions, input on whether it's available.
Sometimes these lists come and they're not really decoded all the way. And so we got a guy that can here that can decode them for us at our office. So if you need them decoded, I think he'll do it for like $200 or something. Because some of the lists that you get, they're just not simplified. You got to run them through some kind of decoding, and then it'll start telling you what you need to know on the spreadsheet. So,
okay. So
just know when you pull that list, it might not be everything you dreamed of, but there's a way to kind of decode it and get it broken open to expose all the information that you want.
Okay. Because, the list that I have located at this point are just homes that are being sold. They're not even, it's a short list. I mean, it's half a dozen addresses. So
no, we're looking for people that are behind the taxes. They haven't made it to the auction yet. We're trying to get to them before the auction.
Yeah. Okay.
You need to find that little old lady with the half glasses hanging around her neck and her hair up in a bun down there. Find out what kind of apple fritter she likes.
But that's it. The tax delinquencies are coming out of the courthouses, and then it's just a matter of getting them decoded or formatted properly.
You could also look for residential property code violations while you're down there. You might as well ask her about that. You also might want to ask her about how do you get a list of FE&Ds, or we call them FE&Ds around here. They're forceful entry and detainer, also known AKA as writ of possession.
Okay.
And these are properties that, the judge has looked right at someone and said, of course, I don't even know if they're doing this right now because of COVID, but they may not be doing them, but you still want to know how to get to them, whether they're doing them today or not, because they will be doing them at some point in time. And so the judge has looked right at the tenant or the occupant and said, you got 7 days to get out. This case is over. And then come 7 days, they're not out yet, and they don't have any plans to leave it. So then you got to call the sheriff, file for a writ of possession, and when we file for writ of possession here in San Antonio, we have to have I think it's one person for 3 people minimum, and then an extra person for every bedroom or something, because the sheriff's going to show up. He's going to knock on the door. When they answer the door, he's going to remove them from the house. If they don't answer the door, he's going to kick the door in, and then he's going to remove them from the house. And then you got to have enough people to empty all the contents of the house, personal contents, out onto the curb in a timely fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have to have someone there to change the locks, which is actually how you take possession. That's by changing the locks on all the doors. And then he goes out and tells the tenant, who he probably has chained to the mailbox or handcuffed to the tree or something, and says, all right, there's your stuff. It's all on the curb. If you set foot on this property again, you can be arrested for trespassing. You no longer have any rights on this property. Have a good day. And they unhandcuff him, and then he, starts walking down the street. So when you find an FE&D list or a writ of possession list, this eviction process or foreclosure process has gone as far as one can possibly go. And you can only imagine how the houses look under that kind of condition, right? So then the person that inherited that house that thought it would be neat to rent it to Uncle Bob and make some money because it was a free and clear house, they don't even have the money to fix it, to rent it again.
Mm-hmm.
And they've had this horrible experience where they just got drugged through the mud. Usually they're not professional landlords, and they get all the way to the end, and it's just been an 8-month or 9-month or 10-month ordeal, and probably some bad blood between the occupant and the landlord or the mortgage holder. And so they weren't very kind to that house,
Yeah, on the way out, yeah.
On the way out. And so the other thing that's cool about writ of possession is if they don't even have the writ of possession here in San Antonio. They don't have a list. You got to go down there and you got to ask for it. And when you ask for it, they're going to tell you to go fly a kite. And then you're going to reach in your back pocket and you're going to pull out a Freedom of Information Act form that you have filled out and says, look, this is public information and I want it and you have to produce it. And if you don't produce it, then my lawyer's going to call you and you're going to produce it then and you're going to have another set of problems. And then they say, well, they'll go get their manager or whoever's over the department, and then maybe you have to get your lawyer to call them or maybe you don't. But either way, they're going to end up walking you back and say, these are the files for the last 3 months. This is the file cabinets. And this is how you find them, and they're in here. And then they're going to ask you, so how often do you want to do this? Hopefully you don't want to do this every day. I said, no, I just want to do it once a month, see what happened this month. And then when you go to show up down there, try to figure out how many people's in that little department. There's 6 people, and you need to show up with 12 tacos, breakfast tacos, or 2 dozen donuts, or whatever, and become real popular down there when you come, so that you wear the dickhead that wanted them to go through, give you this information, and now you're the guy that brings them food. And then and then they start calling you hey, you might want to come down here early this week. We had a slew of them, this last 2 weeks. Why don't you come down and bring those donuts?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It's just a theory, but
Yeah.
the harder it is to get to these things, the less competition you have, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing about the writ of possessions is, on the outside of the folder here in San Antonio, it has the owner's name and his phone number, because the sheriff has to call the owner when he's on his way over there. They'll say, we're going to do this between, 12 noon and 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the sheriff's going to call you when he's headed that way. So you're on hold from noon to 5, just waiting for the call. Then you get the call, and then you got to get your guys over there. But the sheriff has to call the owner and tell him to be out there. So the owner's contact information is in the file.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And the same thing could happen with water meters. If the name of our water company in San Antonio is City Public Service. It's a public domain. I mean, with the Freedom of Information Act, I should be able to get anything I want to get out of them, and I want to know all the properties that have had their water meter removed for at least 1 year up to 7 years. You never brought a water meter back out. And they'll tell you to go fly a kite. Then same thing, pull out Freedom of Information Act document filled out. Say, look, I'm going to get this information. Will you guys please work with me? Otherwise I guess I call my lawyer and you can work with him.
So the water meter hasn't been removed. That's just a great indication that whoever owns it probably wishes they didn't own it.
Well, I mean, how much money can a residential house without a water meter be making that man? Nothing. It's just sitting there deteriorating, right? I mean, vacant houses with no water, you don't show up one day and the lawn's mowed and the house is repainted beautifully. You show up and there's more windows broken and there's more air conditioners stolen, and the grass is, you got to keep mowing the grass, and people are dumping trash on it. So if it doesn't have a water meter, I'm going to guess the guy that owns that property's not making any money off of it, and his property's going backwards every day.
Mm-hmm. How about when you're just looking for the lot that you want to put a mobile home on? It's the guy that's behind on taxes, right?
That doesn't. I mean, hopefully, if it's in a mobile home subdivision or something, it has water and electric available out at the road. It may or may not have a septic, depending on if anyone's ever lived there before. They might have had a mobile home in at one time and it's not there now. But if it did, it has a septic. You got to go find that.
So my goal is to find those tracts of land that may or may not be in a mobile home, probably aren't, but that the guy's behind on taxes and is likely to be selling that lot.
Yeah, and you are allowed to put a mobile home on it.
Yeah.
You got to figure out how you figure that out. But yeah. We usually use Land Glide. We drive down county roads and go all over the place, and you see a piece of land that looks interesting, we pin it, and we skip trace it, and then we start calling or sending letters,
Mm-hmm. But are those lots likely to show up on a tax delinquency list? I mean, is that typically where y'all are buying?
They got to show up. The city's got to have some record of the ones that are tax delinquent. The question is, how do you get your hands on it? So, if it's that hard to find, that's a good thing, I think.
Yeah. Okay. All righty.
The harder a list is to get, and don't be surprised. Like one time we did the water list. They said, look, we can get the list, but it's going to cost us $800 to go get it because we don't produce it. Now we got to go out and produce it. It's going to cost $800 for us to produce it. I don't know if that's right or legal or fair, but I just assessed in my mind, I'll pay $800 for that list. It was, I forget, 8,000 houses or something. It was a lot of houses, that were obviously in big trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, instead of arguing over whether I should pay it or not, why don't you just give me the damn list and here's $800 and let's get on with it,
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, Mitch, I appreciate it.
All right.